This is The Practicing Christian, and this week's report is on missing fathers. Jay Ambrose, who's writing for the Tribune News Service, believes that the worst social problem in America today could well be fatherless homes. While there are myriad exceptions, and while fathers in the home can be negligent or even actively harmful, the statistics are overwhelming about how children can get cheated out of decent lives by their absence. There is also a connection to an absolute horror. That would be the mass shootings, such as the one in Parkland, Florida. The adoptive father of the 19-year-old killer of 17 people, Nicholas Cruz, died when he was 6, not the usual way in which a son is left without a male role model. Far more often, it's fathers fleeing their responsibilities, the mother never getting married, or parents who divorce. But in the case of Cruz, we still had a struggling mother who needed help and a son as out of control as Dylan Roof or Adam Lanza. You may remember Dylan Roof as the young white man who sat with a black Bible study class in Charleston, South Carolina, then got up and opened fire, killing 9 men. Adam Lanza killed 20 first graders and 6 staff people at Sandy Hook School, and then killed his mother. Brad Wilcox, a professor and director of the National Marriage Project at the University of Virginia, studied school shootings and found all the perpetrators had either a mother who never got married or who had seen a divorce in the family. Separately, CNN once looked at the deadliest mass shootings in the U.S. history, noting that of 7 killers who were under 30, only 1 had his biological father around for his whole childhood. A government study shows that 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. Mass shooters are frequently suicidal. A Harvard study observed that urban violence is concentrated in neighborhoods with mostly single-parent homes. In Michigan, a study found 75% of examined adolescent murderers were from fatherless homes. The Centers for Disease Control say 85% of children with behavioral disorders have only a mother in the home. And most mass killers believe that they've been wronged. Well, of course they do. If you spend most of your life with your mother and with female role models, and one day you're told, okay, now be a man, your inner voice may scream, how? An FBI study of mass shootings showed them typically experiencing multiple stressors in the years before they attacked, often related to mental health, finances, and work. And a Secret Service analysis of mass attacks in public spaces in 2018 indicates that just over half of the 27 attacks were motivated by a grievance, like a family fight or a dispute at work, and that nearly all the shooters had at least one significant stressor, such as financial instability, within the last 5 years. Years of being bullied or thinking of themselves as failures, getting picked on and turned down continuously for dates, or not acting like most people think a man should act, can lead them to feel that such an act of violence will prove that they are men. Many potential killers plan a killing spree after a near-term negative event, following years of long-term frustration and grievances. This acute strain starts a planning stage where a mass killing is fantasized as a manly solution to regain control, and actions are taken to bring the dream into reality. Just think of the man who killed 5 people at the Capital Gazette in Annapolis, Maryland, who was in a years-long legal dispute with the paper, or the gunman who shot and killed 3 people at a Chicago hospital after a breakup with one of the victims and had confronted her at work that day. In the case of school shootings, the absence of a father can create a similar circumstance that occurs with older people. Perpetrators usually fail to have a functioning father or a support network of men to help them deal with highly distressed periods in their lives. Before going into that with more detail, let's note that solid information on all of this is hard to find. Many feel that these things occur when the young man in question isn't living in Christ. But we just don't know. Almost no one is asking these questions of the killers. When they do, they often stop at, well, the family were regular attenders at St. Isidore's Orthodox Church, or something like that. Nonsense. That's simply a reminder of the old line, sitting in your garage won't turn you into a car. And there are widely inaccurate figures going around about how many shooters are functionally fatherless. People copy and send incorrect materials from the internet, and it never dies. What we do know is that the seed ground for these horrors lies in a boy trying to grow into a man with no role model. And a decent dad need not be Mr. Perfection. If you're there and you care, that's pretty much inoculates your son or sons from the distressing world of the failed man. But what we can see tells us that the deep distress met alone by a boy, man, has a good likelihood of being drawn down into being a very deep disturbance with possibly deadly consequences. In other words, every father needs to see that his son, as he grows, develops friendships with males other than himself, males who can help him mature into at least a somewhat close relationships with them. These connections allow your son to process the grievance or distress that he experiences without having it go into deadly violence. Jesus once said in Matthew 7, 9 through 11, "Is there any man among you who, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask them?" End of quote. Every practicing Christian dad can do these things and more. Leading your son into a knowledge and love of God in Christ is a good thing, as long as you don't keep saying things like, you do believe this, don't you? Son, don't you? Just tell me you do, please tell me. No, whining doesn't do it. The witness in how you live your life is what he'll respond to, not to whining. A grandfather in a grandson's life can do these things as well. Be sure to do what you can to help him make that transition to a peer group he can trust. Ask in prayer, and God will show you how to overcome whatever foul-ups you've made thus far with your son. It may not always be for the best, but if you're a dad, you're the most living and visible equivalent of God in your son's worldly life. And you will always have the opportunity to help him find his way to his spiritual life, even if nothing has worked so far. Don't blow this, hiding behind work, hobbies, and pastimes or busyness. Remember, he's also your worldly immortality. Serve then, be the king's right arm.